You're listening to the Podcastle, back for Shark Week, returning for the fourth time, our good friend, our favorite author, the author of the children's series literature books, ClarkTheShark, amongst many others. Warm round of applause for Mr. Bruce Hale.
All right. Thank you.
How are you, sir?
I am doing great. How about you guys?
We're doing well. All right, I guess I should let Robert speak. Maybe he's doing terrible, but I'm doing well.
This is the most no, I'm doing good. Can't complain.
Good. Robert, I love your background there with the little jaws.
I thought I dig that out. So I was of the age that was an original toy that I had. So
I love it.
Thought I should dig it
for
out.
life.
And I wore my Jaws shirt today.
Oh,
Ooh,
now
Jaws
that's
shirt.
impressive.
I don't know if you can
It's
see
Shark
mine.
Week,
Mine's a Jaws.
Oh,
I
yeah.
see. We're all wearing it. Nice.
We all got it.
Great.
I was going to wear my Jaws 3D shirt, but I'll wear that for another day.
Okay.
Speaking of Jaws 3D, I tweeted out something the other day. I said, I'm not surprised SeaWorld doesn't use Jaws 3 in their marketing. I don't blame them for disregarding it. And SeaWorld actually responded, well, we kind of use it sometimes, but not so much. And I was like, good for you. Bruce, first of all, thank you so much for coming back on the show. The last time we spoke, we were pandemic deep. And I just wanted to, check in and see how you and the family and everybody's doing throughout this whole ordeal.
Yeah, well, I feel very lucky. We have not had any major illness in our family. Nobody caught COVID. So things have been going smoothly in terms of that. There have been some business challenges, like my whole speaking business in schools disappeared like that. And so I've been slowly rebuilding it through Zoom, and hopefully this next school year we'll start to see some more in-person author visits. But on the whole, I learned how to cook. I improved my guitar playing quite a bit. So there were definitely some bright spots.
And you're you're a glass half full kind of guy, I would imagine.
I am.
There it is. You take a bad situation and you make it better. Are you seeing the school visits, the in-person author visits, kind of lighting up more, that things are sort of turning a page?
Well, they're very cautiously and slowly starting up. I did my first in-person author visit last month. A library system in North Carolina flew me out to help kick off their summer reading.
What's the summer reading? They have the in-library visits kind of thing where you speak? Is that how that works?
They're trying to encourage kids to physically come back to the library. And so they got a grant to bring in a series of authors, and I was the last author. And so it was fabulous.
Nice.
I mean, I missed that interchange of energy you have with a live audience. I missed that so much. And it was just a blast to be able to hang out with these kids and, teach them drawing tips and writing tips and see them apply them right away. It was very exciting.
That is cool. As a kid, I wish we had cool people come visit us in school. I went to Catholic school, so it was like, hey, Sister Mary Margarita's coming to teach you about, pronouns today at 4. And we're like, yay, learning.
Be still, my beating heart.
Be still. Before we get into the shark aspect of the show and Shark Week and shark jokes, and of course talking about ClarkTheShark, your latest books are Switched and Peppermint Post.
And actually, since then, there has been one more come out, a brand new ClarkTheShark book, ClarkTheShark and the School Sing. It slipped under the radar. And the cool thing about this is it's a graphic novel, easy reader. So it's all done comic style to help those early readers who are better with the visuals than they are with the words.
Oh my gosh, that sounds so cool.
It is. Yeah, it's a new thing that my publisher, HarperCollins, is doing. They brought out, I think, about 5 different books in this new format just over the last few months.
Now I have to ask, did Matthew ClarkTheShark, what came first? Is there some type of secret messaging here that I'm not aware of?
You
Join
would
us.
think so. Well, and to even complicate it more, my brother's name is Matthew Clark Hale. So clearly we are all karmically connected.
You're
here.
joking.
No, I'm serious.
What?
Yeah.
Wow.
And don't you live on Clark Street?
Yeah, and I live on Clark Street. There's a whole
Oh, how
thing
perfect.
going
It
on.
seems very fishy to me. No pun
The
intended.
boom, boom.
I met Bruce like on social media a few years back, and I made a joke. I said, Bruce Hale agreed not to sue me for using the screen name Clark the Shark or whatever, and or something like that. And you actually replied, and I was like, oh wow, the guy's accessible. Like this is awesome, and
Yeah.
rest is history. But that's so cool. Are you going to use this format, sort of the easy reading graphic novel thing, for like future releases? Is this like a temporary
I
thing?
Yeah, I'm hoping so. I think Harper wants to see how these first books do, but assuming they do pretty well, because graphic novels have been on the rise in recent years, I'm sure I'll be doing more Clark the Sharks in this format.
I was speaking to a friend last week in Georgia, who is a teacher, and she asked, do you have any good books to recommend for the kids? And I said, no, I don't. I'm not really the person to ask, but I would recommend, Bruce Hale, Clark the Shark. And she already had them and said they were like excellent. So I said I will mention this on the show and let
Nice.
him know that you people of Georgia love Clark the Shark. So there,
I
there's
love
the
it.
plug. But yeah,
Well,
that's really cool. Congratulations on that. I know over the winter time you released Peppermint Post, and then I believe it was early spring it was switched.
That's right.
How did you see those perform with, pandemic versus, people not in school or more people reading at home? Like what was kind of your takeaway from that?
Well, it's tricky. I saw a lot of enthusiasm for the books. I haven't seen sales figures yet, so I don't really have a way to judge. But Harper seemed to be really happy with the way Peppermint Post was performing, and it got a lot of good social media attention. And then Switched. Usually, I visit a lot of schools, and I tend to sell a lot of books when I visit schools. Of course, no school visits, but I have done plenty of Zoom author visits, and the kids really like this one. They like the idea of what would it be like if I inhabited a dog's body? What would I be able to do? What would a dog be like if he had to be me and go to school? And so that's basically the premise. It's like Freaky Friday meets A Dog's Purpose.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And because I read the synopsis about that, and we've all wondered at one point, like, what would it be like if we
Yeah.
could take on another form and switch? And I think that's always like, an interesting idea to explore, especially for kids, something
Oh
that's
yeah.
always there. Did you find that Zoom meetings with the kids is easier or harder?
Harder for me.
Yeah.
I get feedback from the teachers and librarians, and they say, "Oh, this was great. They loved it." But you'd never know because at the schools I was visiting, they were behind plexiglass shields with masks on.
Ugh.
And if they were laughing, I couldn't tell. They could have been crying. They're just kind of moving their heads like this. It's
Right.
weird. It's really weird to get used to as a speaker.
Yeah, no, I couldn't imagine. It would be kind of intimidating for me. It's like,
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm upsetting them or they scared. With me, they'd probably be scared or upset.
Yeah,
But
that's true.
but with you, they love it. Um, so happy Shark Week, Bruce, and happy
Happy
Shark Week,
Shark Week.
Robert.
Yeah.
Clark the Shark, we've spoken of before, but would you be able to get into kind of the conceptualization of Clark the Shark series? Like,
Yeah.
how did that all play out originally?
Absolutely. Well, unlike most of my projects, which I come up with on my own and develop and then get my agent to help sell, this time the publisher came to me. And they had this vision of doing a rhyming shark. So they came up with the name Clark the Shark and this general character of sort of overenthusiastic, like a kid who doesn't know how to discipline himself or rein himself in. And so they came to me and said, "We think you're the perfect guy to write this." And originally it was just going to be a digital I can read book. And that was it. But they liked my story and they liked the art so much. They said, "Oh man, we got to make this a conventional picture book." And then that led to, I think we're at book number 11 or 12 now. I'm starting to lose count. So it just kept growing organically, and the kids responded to it, and the publisher put some oomph behind it to promote it, and so it's just something that a lot of kids can relate to, I think, because especially when they're first graders, kindergartners, they have all this energy and they're not socialized. They don't know how to deal with other people. They're like little barbarians, basically.
Like
My office is next to a pre-K classroom, so I know exactly what you're talking about.
There you go. Yeah.
like real sharks, we hope the Clark the Shark series lives for hundreds of years and has a lot of babies. Is that how we? That's probably not how you
I
talk
like
to it about
that.
the
I'll
kids, but
take
that's what
that.
we like, right?
Yeah.
Do you find out when? Okay, so it was really going to be a digital book, like an ebook, and that was it.
Yeah, that was the plan.
I could see that starting off as maybe an ebook and on like a website, but I feel like it's such a cool character that people responded so well. Do you think that even if you wanted to keep it that way, it would have to be, a physical book just because he's such a cool character. It's such a good idea.
I think so. And I think that's what Harper responded to. They're like, okay, this has potential. We need to do this right. And not that ebooks is wrong or anything, but it's just
No.
less, it doesn't reach out as far as like a physical book would and get reviewed in, various publications and that kind of thing.
Yeah, it makes sense. And what I really like about your books that I think children respond to, and you can speak to that better than I, but it kind of it teaches them things, obviously, but it makes it fun for them without being preachy or kind of talking down. Like kids are very smart. They know if they're being like manipulated or it's, there's an agenda. And I feel like your books are very honest in that sense. Like it's an adventure, like, hey, let's go on this together kind of with the kids. And that's why it does so well.
Yeah, I like to think that. I always subscribe to that old Hollywood axiom. I think it may have been Sam Goldwyn or someone like that who said, if you want to send a message, go to Western Union. It's
Yeah.
That's for messages. A story needs to be a story that stands on its own. And if it has content that helps the reader realize something about themselves, that's great. But you can't just dictate to kids and preach to them because they'll just turn right off. So,
Right. Yeah,
so
they
the
get it.
challenge has been with this to balance the entertainment with whatever positive message we're trying to get across. Like, okay, sharing is okay, or what things do you need to do to be a better friend to your friends? So these are all kind of couched in slapstick and goofy stuff and bad puns that make it go down more easily.
And everybody loves a bad pun. I
Of
mean,
course.
for real.
Not everybody.
Not everybody.
Okay,
I'm very
I have a fish joke for you.
Please.
All right.
Bring it on.
So here we go. Two fish were swimming along and they ran into a concrete wall. One turned to the other and said, "Damn."
That's a good one.
That's a third grader joke.
No, I love it. I love those kind of jokes.
Yeah.
What do you call two sharks who get married, Bruce?
I don't know. What?
Well, they're hooked for life.
Oh.
Hurts. That one hurts.
That does.
Before the pandemic, you hinted, you stuck your pinky toe into an idea that you shared briefly with us, that there would be a theatrical release or some sort of motion picture production involving Clark the Shark. Is there anything you can shed on that?
Well, actually, no, it wasn't Clark the Shark. We did, Harper did submit that as with a number of other properties to, I believe it was PBS, who was wanting to develop some more stuff for kids. And ultimately nothing happened there. But I did have, for a little while, one of my series was optioned by a producer that was connected with ABC. And it looked like that was going to be gangbusters. And it was really going great that year before the pandemic. And then the pandemic hit and they didn't renew the option and the whole thing fell apart. So
Yeah,
I'm sure that's a story that's been repeated over and over for lots of folks.
more
I feel
so
like
than
Switched is like ripe to be taken up by Universal or somebody.
I think so too. And I think it's just a matter of time because it's a strong concept and I wrote it in a very theatrical way so it would play well on the screen.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I feel like your creative library, your intellectual, creative property has so much potential and really deserves, to be seen, visually in the sense of whether it's a film or a series or whatever. So I really hope that happens because I feel like it deserves it. It's very
Thanks.
good.
Yeah, I look forward to it. I've had things optioned 3 different times. So maybe the 4th time's a charm.
4th time's a charm.
Yeah.
Or as I always say to my wife, trying to sell this script, I'm like, you know what? 86 times the charm. Just wait. It's them. It's not me. No,
It's
Maybe
always
somebody's
them.
listening right now. You never know.
you never
Yeah.
know. Bruce, out of all of your intellectual property, all of your creations, Chet Gecko, Clark the Shark, Munster Town series, the whole thing, do you have a favorite that's like kind of your baby where you like that this one the best?
Boy, it's hard. It's like asking someone, which is your favorite toe? I'm kind of connected to all my toes,
It's a good
kind of
point.
attached. But I'll tell you my two favorites, and that's Clark the Shark and Chet Gecko. Those are my kind of the pinnacle. I really feel like with both of those, even though they're very different from each other, I
Yeah.
succeeded in doing what I wanted to do. And I'm still, when I read the books aloud in the storytelling, I'm still like, hey, that's a pretty good joke, or oh, this character really works. So that's always a good sign.
It's interesting you said that too, because when I think of you, Bruce, and your work, those two automatic, obviously Clark the Shark, but Chet Gecko pops to my head. He's such a
Yeah.
cool dude to get stuff done. And you write it very well written too. Those are all great books. So that's kind of cool that you said those two.
Yeah.
And what was your childhood book that you remember?
Oh man. Well, the book that encouraged me to start reading, because I was a total non-reader. I was a TV addict as a kid. I'd be like glued to the TV watching, I don't know, something uplifting like Get Smart or Gilligan's Island.
Oh, sure.
Get Smart, the best.
I always say my after school program was Gilligan's Island and the Brady Bunch. That's what we had.
There you go. Yeah, it works. Yeah, but I was totally attached to that until one very sad day when our family actually lost somebody very close to us, our TV.
Oof.
The TV died. And back in those days, they had these massive, this big cathode ray tubes, and it was really expensive to replace one. And my parents just said, sorry, we don't have the money to replace it. And so they started reading to us. And at first I was really skeptical. I'm like, yeah, right, books. Uh-huh. But then they started reading Tarzan to me. And for some reason, that adult pulp fiction just caught my imagination. And I went, oh man, if this is what books are about, I actually like books. And that turned me into a reader. So it's an unusual childhood favorite because it's not really written for kids, but that was the first thing that really made a difference for me in my reading.
Awesome.
That's so cool. That's a great question too, Robert. You're talking like the Edgar Rice Burroughs, like the original novels?
Oh yeah.
Oh wow. Oh, that is cool.
Yeah, and I didn't understand half the words, so I've got Tarzan in one hand and the dictionary in the other. Like,
oh yeah, but
primordial. What the heck?
Sometimes I feel like that's one of the best ways to learn. As a kid, you read something maybe a little bit higher than your age bracket suggests, and then you look stuff up and you go, what? Oh, that's what that means, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Kind of like it's a cool way to explore and like learn, find new things.
It is.
Bruce can attest to this, but I always said, the more you read, the better writer that you become. And then I think I learned that through high school. My job through high school was at the library, so you would just naturally pick up stuff, and I think that's what made me a better writer, and probably what made me a worse writer now that I have not. I don't read as much as I did when I was actually in my teenage years.
Yeah. No, you're exactly right, Robert. It's that's always the advice I give to young writers. They say, "What do I do?" And I say, "Read, and write." Because you only get better by doing it over and over and over. And when you read, you understand how to tell a story. But I'm curious, how about for you two? What was like a childhood story that really registered with you, that really made a difference?
For me, it was Bernstein Bears. They were like a local kind of story. I don't even know if you guys have heard of them.
Sure.
Oh yeah.
Oh, you have? Okay. They
Yeah.
were kind of local to the area of Pennsylvania I was from. And the first book I ever got was Bernstein Bears' Trouble at School, which resonated with me because as an ADHD child in kindergarten, I often was trouble at school. So that was kind of like, oh, there's other kids, in this case, cubs, that like get in trouble as well. And they're just trying to find their way. They're not bad. They're just acting out. So like Bernstein Bears were big for me. And I think Charlotte's Web was like the first big book I read, like first grade or something. How about you, Robert?
I remember young. I remember Corduroy. I don't
Oh
remember
yeah.
anything about the story. Vividly remember the pictures and the cover. But then as I got older, obviously I think I always called it Richard Scarry, but I think it was Richard Scarry is probably
Mhm.
that was kind of the early Where's Waldo, looking for all these little clues. I guess that's not really reading, but yeah, I remember the first kind of adult book I read was the Grease novelization. So I think it was 8 or something. So same thing. Some things were just flying over my head, and I remember
Right.
there's certain things that I was reading. And I was like, I don't know what I think I said it out loud. My parents were like, you shouldn't say that, but I didn't know. But yeah, but like you said, that I felt like that kind of elevated me. Like, oh, I'm like reading my first novelization, even though it was kind of a thin paperback. But
Yeah,
that's kind of what kind of turned me on, that there was more to the story than what I saw on this at the movie theater.
I love that.
It's really interesting when you talk about, kind of the books that shaped you younger, and then life kind of throws you a curveball, and they make you read Roald Dahl's James and the Giant Peach and Gremlins, where kids get eaten and stuff, and you're like,
Yeah.
what is this? And then you kind of forget about it, and then it comes back. But it
Yeah.
is kind of interesting to see that, like,
Oh
what
yeah.
books shape you. Bruce, you have a link on your website, how to find an agent, which is one of the things I love about you. You kind of, just what you said a moment ago about, write every day. The more you do, the better you get. I feel like you're very apt to, helping people and giving advice out there. And there's a cool link on your website. And listeners, the website's brucehale.com, of course. And somebody wrote to you, how do you find an agent? You did this cool, like, kind of article about that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think that's really an important part, is once you have any level of success, it's really important to give back, because there are people who are where you were a year ago or 2 years ago or whatever, and you can help them along. So, this person was asking about agents for children's books. So I just told them some of the things it's good to do. And one thing that a lot of folks don't know is, if you meet an agent at a conference when they're speaking, often they will say, okay, anybody in this room, I will take an unsolicited submission from you. And so you take
Oh,
advantage of that
wow.
loophole, because a lot of them have what they call a closed transom. It's really hard to get in there.
That's amazing well, first of all, to think about it that way, giving back, um, someone that became successful to kind of help the next person along, which is cool. But yeah, kind of how that whole process works is very
Yeah.
interesting. It's not how it works in Hollywood.
No, I've heard that.
Get off my lawn. I have a script. No, but it's that's
Yeah.
very, like, admirable. That's such a cool thing that you do. And I know you do that a lot on your site. Your site's very fun the other day, or very fun. But the other day I was on it, and I think you had some kind of graphic where your face kept changing.
Oh yeah, yeah. If you put the mouse over it, my face changes.
Is that what it was? Because then it stopped doing it, and then I thought I might have just been hallucinating a second ago.
Well, there is the peyote. When that comes on, you see
Right.
all kinds of things on that site. But
Yeah, I thought, what did I take? It was going to be a trip to the ER, or maybe I just need to refresh the browser. But it was
yeah,
very interesting.
no, it's when you get into the website and you kind of move your mouse over the different menu drop down things, my face changes depending on which one it is. Like the blog one, it's usually because it's like, oh my God, I have to write a blog. I forgot about that. I have to do something.
I'm flipping through it right now as we speak to see.
Yeah.
Are blogs like the most tedious, the things you maybe like the least out of
Well,
things you have to do?
they're low on the list there. I much prefer creating, writing, drawing, making music, and then the promotional type stuff like writing blogs and doing social media posts. I haven't taken to it like some people. I mean, I'm active, but I wouldn't call myself an expert by any means.
You're a creative man. The expertise is in the novels there,
Exactly.
It'll all fall in. Speaking of music,
Yeah.
so you're the Latin jazz band. We spoke about this, I want to say
Yeah.
2
Mezcal
days ago.
Martini.
Mezcal Martini. You guys are back in action.
Yeah.
I guess I shouldn't say back. I'm sure you never left, but as far as performing live, I'm sure that went away in the past year.
Oh yeah.
So you're back though. You're doing shows again this summer.
Oh my God. It was so great. Our first show after, let's see, probably about 14 or 15 months, since like very early 2020, was earlier in the month, and it was a blast. They blocked off the street on State Street. I don't know if you've been up to Santa Barbara before, but our main drag, State Street, has become a walking street. And so there were people all over the street. There were like all the
Nice.
tables, the little parklets from different restaurants. And we played, I think, for about 200 people. And they were
nice.
up and dancing. And oh man, it was just like a community celebration. So beautiful to be part of it.
Yeah, they're feeling the groove. They're getting into it. And as a musician too, it's tough to not perform live for that long. I mean, you can play at home and stuff, and that can get some of the itch off, but for the most part, that's brutal,
Yeah. So that it was this great interchange of energy between the audience and us, and seeing them dancing made us play harder, and that made them dance harder. And it was really special. So we've had 2 gigs since things have opened up, and we've got about 3 or 4 more coming.
That's amazing. When's the next gig? Can I share it on the air?
You can share it on the air. We're doing a private party before the fiesta that happens here in early August. But the one that people could actually attend is a fundraiser at Chase Palm Park on July 31st. And it's going to be music all afternoon. We're one of like 5 bands. So that'll be
that's awesome. One. That's July 31st at
Chase Palm Park.
Chase Palm Park.
Yeah, right on the waterfront.
That's beautiful. I like that you do that too.
Yeah.
You live in a beautiful spot too. You always post pictures on your Instagram, which is Mr. Bruce Hale. Listeners, give it a shot. But it's always like, beautiful day here in Santa Barbara Beach. And as I read it, I'm like, it's beautiful traffic here in Tarzana, Los Angeles. And so I'm always so jealous.
Is there ever bad days in Santa Barbara, really?
Right. Oh, yeah, of course. Well, yeah, when we had the Thomas fire here, and it was so smoky, I went down to LA for clean air.
Right. That's the problem.
That's how bad.
Yeah.
When you're going to LA for clean air.
Mm-hmm.
Bruce, before we go, I wanted to bring up, there's a few shark movies that are not, I know you're a movie guy, not Jaws. Oh, yeah. That's the obvious, but we want to kind of ask if you've seen them, what you think of them, kind of thing.
I haven't really not seen a lot of them because I love swimming in the ocean. So I don't want to feed my head with all these images of people being devoured from below.
That's an interesting question because you're a creative man. And I wanted to ask, can you separate the fiction? Obviously you can, but the fear of like the fiction and the reality with stuff like that? Because for me, it's very difficult sometimes.
Yeah. It's like you, I have a strong imagination. So if I put those things into my head, they're going to come out. I'll be thinking, megalodon. Okay, yeah, I'm in trouble now.
Can't wait to go swimming.
Yeah.
So you've never seen, you've seen Jaws, of course, I would hope.
Of course, yeah.
Have you seen Deep Blue Sea?
I have not. No. Is that a
You're
good
missing out, my friend.
Okay.
No.
That's actually.
If I want to not go back in the ocean again, that's a good one to watch.
You just don't go to made up research facilities in the ocean. That's all you have to do. Then you're fine.
I can
Yeah. Think of it as like the abyss, but not.
Yeah.
Have you seen? You mentioned the Megalodon. Have you seen the Meg with Jason Statham?
The Meg. Yeah, I saw part of that. I think I was traveling somewhere. I was on a plane or something. I watched a chunk of it. The shark was pretty impressive. And, I have to say, I always enjoyed Jason Statham. Like my wife has a crush on him. She thinks of him as her boyfriend. And so I always try to speak in a Jason Statham accent, like, right then.
Well, see, you're a good looking guy. That could be a compliment. She has good taste.
She does have good taste.
See, some of my wife's celebrity crushes aren't that good looking. So I'm thinking, what does that say about me? It's not like
to read too much into it.
Yeah, maybe I shouldn't, but that's where the imagination goes. It's like, it's not like, yeah, Brad Pitt. Oh man, I'd love him, or Leonardo DiCaprio. It's kind of like Ray Romano always has that sexy thing. I'm like, really? That's the bar?
Like, trying to make you feel better, So.
Yeah.
Right. That's what I should tell myself. I feel like Clark the Shark would save you though, Bruce, if you were in troubled waters.
Yes, we would hope so, that he'd have some loyalty.
Another good thing about Clark the Shark, which I'm sure you hear all the time, but it also adds a positive reinforcement to the idea of sharks. As we all know, they're not man-eating, terrible flesh-hungry monsters that movies portray them at. And here you are with this best-selling, children's books that are putting sharks directly or indirectly, however you want to take it, in, a positive light.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Which is
We
cool.
definitely help kids reframe that a bit. And you notice that Clark never eats his classmates.
Clark
think
never
that's-
eats the
that's
classmates.
A positive role model right there.
I feel like that's the missing last page of the book. Like,
He's like, "Hey, Joey Mackerel,
Yeah.
your lunch."
just a
Boom.
limb falling. What's the in Jaws where the leg just falls through the frame, and that's
Yeah.
the last page.
Right. Clark the Shark. If Clark the Shark were well, he is real, but if he were living in California, would he be an LA guy, Bruce, or would he be up north more, do you think?
I think he'd probably be more up north with all those great whites around San Francisco and Santa Cruz.
I think so.
Yeah,
I think that's a good assessment.
Like those dirty LA sharks. That
I know.
They're
Half
always
of
in
them wear
traffic.
shades, they have agents, it's like, that's not his scene. He's much more innocent.
they never call you back.
That's true.
They always flake.
Even
Yeah,
if you
I'll
bite
be
their
there.
arm off.
Right. So can you tell us kind of what's next, like what you're working on? Is there anything exciting that you're able to share of like things popping in the Bruce Hale world?
Yeah, absolutely. I've got a couple of really fun things I'm working on right now. One of them is I'm developing a TV script for a Chet Gecko TV series.
Oh, nice.
And it has not been optioned or anything, but I figured if I started with the concept and got it really strong, then my agent could start shopping it around. So I've been working on that, and it's
Congratulations.
Fun. Oh, what's that?
Congratulations. That's huge.
Oh yeah, thank you.
To be,
thank you.
Doing that.
Yeah, and it's fun to switch storytelling styles because novels and scripts are two very different animals. So it keeps my brain fresh.
Yeah, because and with you too, with like the clout behind you, with all the success with the books, I feel like it would be easier for when your agent or whatever, however that goes to whatever who's considering purchasing it, that makes an easier decision. Like, well, it already has this built-in audience. It's
It
not
does.
like you're Joe Blow that's just like, I have a script here. You're like, okay, leave it in the trash. But with you, it's like people already like they want this stuff. It's like so successful.
Yeah. So I've got that on the script side, and then I just finished about 6 chapters of a new book. It's a fractured fairy tale, and this one is like it's the Frog Prince mixed with My Name Is Earl. So basically,
Really?
This bratty prince is like just like the worst, spoiled brat, doing mean things, pisses off a witch. She puts a curse on him. He turns into a frog, and he'll only turn back once he has helped as many people as he's hurt.
Oh, that's cool. And it sounds like it teaches a good lesson,
It does. And it's, so it's on one level, it's funny, it's goofy. He's got a unicorn sidekick. They run around having adventures with fairy tale characters, but on another, it's about kindness. And it's about, how do we become a better person? So, but I keep that like way in the background, very subtle, because it's mostly about the goofy stuff.
Yeah, no, but that's the balance I think works with most of your work.
Yeah.
You have this great message and all the stories, and you have a great and all the books, and you have a good underlying backbone of kind of like a moral compass. But it's fun. It's not. That's what I meant when I said earlier. It's not like a preachy thing, but it leaves it's a good message, which I think is very important.
Yeah, no, I think it's good too, because if I can make somebody laugh and then give them kind of an awe moment with the same story, I feel like I'm really firing on all cylinders.
Yeah, you're making it happen.
Yeah.
Have you been back to the movies? I know you're a movie guy. Have you been back to the movies? What have you seen? What have you heard?
The most recent one we went out to see was there was that Bob Odenkirk action film. I can't even remember the name, but that was pretty good. And then the one we just saw last weekend was Summer of Soul, about the Harlem Cultural Festival. And it was happening almost the same time as Woodstock with these amazing acts. Sly and the Family Stone and the Staples Singers and young Stevie
cool.
Wonder. He was still a teenager, and just amazing musicianship. It just gives me chicken skin even thinking about it. It's so
Oh
good.
yeah.
I
I
haven't
always
seen
forget.
it, but NPR was talking about that, and they said the sound design was fantastic. That unlike a lot of other concert films where it's kind of mono and tinny, that for some reason they felt like that was the best kind of concert sound that they've heard in a film.
Oh,
I would
cool.
agree.
I
Yeah,
always
and it
forget
was just
Sly and the
very
Family Stone
inspirational.
were from the 60s. I
Oh
always
man,
associate with
they were
70s, but
they were
they're
amazing. I had never seen any images of them performing, and dang, they just took that stage over. They
they weren't
were
messing around.
great.
This happened the same weekend as Woodstock did.
I don't know if it's the same weekend, but it was the same summer.
Oh
So
wow.
this
Okay.
took place in Harlem, and they filmed it. This filmmaker did it, and he said, "Oh, this should be an easy documentary to sell," and nobody bought it for years and years and
Oh.
years. And they finally went to Questlove and said, "Hey, we think you should be the guy to take all this raw footage and turn it into a documentary." And after turning it down twice, he finally said, "Okay."
Yeah,
And
that's it. Let's do it because there certainly isn't like a market for that. That sounds awesome.
yeah, that was cool. How about you? You seen something good lately?
Uh, I've seen stuff lately. I
It's
don't know if I've
it's
seen
a
anything.
movie.
Yeah, it's
Yep.
a movie. I don't know if I've seen anything good.
Yeah.
What about you, Robert?
Technically, no. I'm waiting for our Alamo Draft House to open because I refuse to see movies in a non-texting, non-talking movie theater. That being said, I did when I was in LA. I went to sneak to see The Forever Purge, which is probably on the lower end of the quality poll, but I was doing locations for it, so I had to go see it in the morning, and I actually drove. I left the theater and went right to Pomona and Ontario to go visit the filming location. So for some, but that doesn't count as a movie for me.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
I'm seeing. I do have tickets to see Old next week, the M. Night Shyamalan movie. We'll see how it does. I've never missed any of his films on the opening week that they came out, so I'm keeping up with tradition. But it should be good.
Nice.
I hope.
Oh, good. I hope so. Yeah, he's had some great ones. Then he's had some where you just scratch your head. So
Yeah. You
hopefully
just
be
think.
another great one.
I hope so. Yeah. But I know that's going to be our time, Bruce. I know we've taken up a lot of your time. Now that the rehearsal is over, maybe we can start recording and go live.
Okay, good.
I'm just kidding. But I just want to thank you so much for always coming on the show, and I hope you can come back again soon, and we can chat more and do more cool stuff.
Absolutely. Well, it's always a pleasure. You guys do great work, and you're fun and easy to talk with. And Robert, you're a great addition to the crew. It's a pleasure
Thank you.
meeting you.
We're gonna have to. I'm gonna have to add your books to our list. I work for a nonprofit that does early childhood and out of school programs, so I will put an order in for your books.
Perfect.
Oh, there we go.
Appreciate that.
Yeah, and please follow Bruce on Twitter at StoryGuy1, and of course on Instagram at Mr. Bruce Hale, and visit his website on brucehale.com. And I don't know if Bruce has messenger pigeons yet, but I feel like we need to bring that technology back,
I
Bruce.
think
It's more
so.
personable. I would like to send you a letter that gets there the same day, but it's handwritten.
We'll work on that.
We'll work on that. But Bruce, you're great. You're always just such a pleasure to talk to, and thank you for coming on, sir.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I hope you guys have a fabulous evening, and I hope your next movie you see is a great one.
Oh, amen. Thank you, sir. All right. Take care.
All right. Take care.
Bye-bye.